It's getting harder, you turn my heart up, throw me in water. I'm getting higher, just to feel ya, cause I need to. No one knows it, heart is frozen from your poison. Taking the potion, just to feel ya, cause I miss you. Oh my God, can't stop you like heroin. My love you got, there's no settlement. I can't pretend that we're nothing.
Alright, it's this guy. Alright. Phenmor versus level 9999. Okay. Alright, let's go. Look at that. Yeah, he's dead.
I'm getting higher, just to feel ya, cause I need to.
No, I lost stacks, but it's okay. 4 stacks, we still got it. That punch through. Are we gonna kill him with both punch through? One's down. Look at that infinite ammo. Tell me about it. Can you guys see? I don't see what's happening. DE, is this fun for you? Did you find this entertaining? I mean, what? Is it invulnerable? DE, fix your game, right? What's good, folks? It's Nightmare Frame here with a new Warframe video coming at you with the Phenmor build and guide. Phenmor is the new Incarnon weapon, one of the 3 new Incarnon weapons to be exact. We have the primary, secondary, and melee. However, amongst the 3, the Phenmor is the better one. Let me explain why. The melee is just a melee. Apparently DE still thinks melees are broken for some apparent reason, and it doesn't have any fancy gimmicks. The secondary is just another Exceltra. I know a lot of people will be like, but hey, it does a lot of damage. Yeah, it does a lot of damage, but the last perk is just pretty much the same as the primary perk. And we already have better AoE weapons that do a better job than the secondary. And then the secondary is just quite buggy at the moment. If you were to compare the 3, the Phenmor is the one that's better off. So what is unique about these new weapons? They have an evolution trait, the first of its kind in Warframe, where you have to complete some specific challenges to unlock a new trait. And as you see over here, we have 5 traits. The first trait is the Incarnon form, where the weapon changes and fires differently. Of course, you have to activate this by getting a few headshots. For example, you can see right underneath my reticle, there's a tiny bar that fills up as you get some headshots. And it makes that sound. So also pay attention to the bar and the audio cue. Once you do that, you alternate fire. And boom, it's a new weapon now. Fires differently as well. The primary fire deals puncture and slash. There you go, puncture and slash. And it's heavy in that slash department. This is without any stacks of any gun arcanes, and we still are able to shred these guys. So just imagine if we build up some gun arcane stacks. And once you finally build up the meter, you press alternate fire. The Incarnon transformation is actually affected by reload speed. So without any reload speed mods or arcanes, it will take a while. And that animation is actually a detriment to your gameplay, basically slowing you down. This entire update was pretty much things to slow you down, even though it's meant to be played fast. So you either have to use a reload speed arcane and a reload speed mod just to make the transformation faster. Activating it while dodge rolling or going to your operator can actually cancel it. For example, I click it, dodge roll, I'm still in the primary fire. I click it, it cancels. So I have to wait for the entire animation to finish for me to actually use it, which is unfortunate. Sometimes even casting an ability, a two-handed ability, can even cancel the animation. Alright, here we are in the Chrysalith. So to unlock your Incarnon weapons, you do need to rank up in the new Syndicate. And how to get these weapons, you fast travel to Caballero. He has a selection of arcanes and weapons. And the weapons are the Incarnon weapons, the 3 Incarnon weapons, primary, secondary, and melee. Once you reach a certain point in the standing, you have enough standing, you can purchase them and craft them with the resources that you get from doing the mission. Once you get the weapon, you will go and do certain tasks. They're pretty much like little Riven challenges. And each challenge will unlock a new type of evolution. The first evolution being your ability to switch into the Incarnon form of the weapon. Let's take a look at the different types of evolutions. Once you have the weapon, you go to evolve Incarnon Weapon.
Feeling creative?
It has these 5 stages of evolution. The first one being the transformation. Second one, you have a choice between projectile flight speed, fire rate, and void guidance. Out of the 3, you're better off running the recoil reduction because this weapon does have that kick. Fire rate can be achieved by so many other means. And the projectile flight speed isn't that important on this weapon. So your best bet is going for that recoil reduction. And let's go to Evolution 3. Evolution 3, you have the headshots, chance to reload the weapon, and secondly, ready to 100% reload on empty. These do not affect anything on the Incarnon build. The reason why these 2 are useless on the Incarnon mode because the Incarnon mode is a battery. So it doesn't reload at all. And there won't be any point using the primary fire. The primary fire is the weaker version of this weapon. So you'd want to build up your meter and switch to Incarnon mode to deal the most optimal damage. So the best option here is to take the magazine capacity. This affects the primary fire, but why is it better? Because we can shoot more and gives us more chances to build up that Incarnon meter, especially if we miss those headshots. And that's where we come to the 4th evolution, where we picked headshots build the Incarnon gauge faster. Now, why not pick these other 2? Because the increase is so minuscule, you won't even notice. And we're building for non-crits, so there's no point taking this one. But then here, this has less crits. Why don't we take this one? Again, there's no point because we want to be in Incarnon mode a lot more, so we gotta take this to build up that meter fast and switch. Then finally, our last evolution, where I picked 50% chance to deal 2000% damage on non-crits. So we're not going to be building this weapon for crits. But we have 2 other options. Enemies suffering from fewer than 3 status effects will increase our critical damage. This is horrible. Fewer than 3 to deal more crit damage? Nah, never. We want to build up a lot of status effects to deal even more damage. And then the first one, on 2 headshots within 2 seconds, 50% headshot damage. This will be interesting, but unfortunately, do people aim in Warframe? Absolutely not. So we went for the complete destroyer bullet hose build, and that's why we went for this devouring attrition. This 2000% is a final damage multiplier. So that's a lot of damage. And we're shooting this thing so fast, it's gonna be ticking left and right, destroying everything. But guess what? If you want to change your build, you can. You can always change your trait as long as you've unlocked it. You can change it whenever you want. So you want to be experimental and say, hey, you know what? I don't want a mod for fire rate. I can just take this. Well, you can. So don't worry about it. You're free to do whatever you want with these evolution traits. Alright, now that we're back in the simulacrum, let's take a look at the builds. And this build was used specifically for endurance runs. So the build may vary depending on your gameplay and game modes. For the gun arcane, where we get our base damage, I went with primary dexterity because I can kill with melee and build up my base damage, which is fairly easy. And it also gives me that holster speed, so I can switch between my debuff weapon, which is going to be my utility weapon, where I can debuff the enemy, and then shoot with my primary weapon. For 6 stacks, we get 360% base damage multiplier. So we do not need to mod it for serration or heavy caliber, since all of our base damage is coming from the arcane. Yes, you can run a merciless, which is going to be a lot easier for you for regular gameplay, but I went with a disruption build, so hence why I went with dexterity. We want our faction mod to multiply our damage that we deal to the enemy and double dip with any DOTs, and our main DOT here is going to be bleeds, since we have all that slash damage. Multi-shot, more bullets, faster Incarnon meter buildup. Yes, each bullet does affect the buildup. Prime shred for even more punch through and fire rate, because when you switch to the Incarnon mode, you do get additional punch through. But yes, you can increase that with prime shred. For my run, I did run with hammer shot and vigilante armaments, but then after doing more research, found out that prime fast hands was way better, especially if you want to switch in and out of that Incarnon mode fast enough. And additionally, using speed trigger here for even more fire rate, vigilante armaments for even more multi-shots, Fang Fusillade to increase my slash weighting, so I'll be proccing more slash to bleed down the enemies. And finally, galvanized aptitude. More status effects on a target will have me deal more damage, and it also increases my status chance. Finally, stabilizer. Now you may ask, why use this while also using the evolution trait? Well, let me show you. Very stable. Wait, did it just recoil slightly? Oh no! Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. And plus, there's no point using any other utility in the Eximus except, well, stabilizer. We won't be running out of ammo because the Incarnon mode is infinite ammo, and we'll only be staying in the primary mode to build up Incarnon meter. And we can do that fairly easy. You go there, get those headshots. Even if you miss the headshots, well, you have Magus Anomaly. Free headshot. Yeah, those are a couple of shots without even the multi-shot buildup. Switch. You got it. We want to build up base damage, kill enemies with melee. And look at that. That's good. Now, what if I want to run an elemental build? So if you want to build this for corrosive damage, all you have to do is change these two mods. Replace them with elemental mods. So, for the Incarnon mode, yes, we deal a lot of that slash damage, which will result in bleeding the enemies. But since we also do a lot of raw damage with that final perk, armor stripping can actually be a great DPS increase, especially in those endurance runs. So, would you rather wait for that DOT to tick off, or armor strip and deal that increased damage and have even more bleeds on top of that? In the endurance run I decided not to armor strip them, just to show you the raw power of the bleeds and everything. So if you do combine the armor strip and the final perk, it's a lot of damage. That's just the bleeds. You have that 1 second delay. And that's with an armor strip. You see the difference? Now I will get people to say, yeah, you could do this with anything. Just armor strip, you deal damage. No, that's not how it works for those kinds of levels. And with the new XMI changes, and the Demolyst having specific forms of damage reduction, yeah, you kind of need to do certain things for you to be able to finish them off fast. Because in disruption missions, it's more about your TTK, time to kill, rather than having your KPS, KPM, which is more beneficial in survival missions. Because in disruption missions, you have those 4 VIP targets tied to those conduits, and then you have the fodder enemies to help you build up your stacks or your buffs, free weapons for you to take out those VIP targets. So that's where single target weapons excel at. And don't be fooled, just because this weapon is a bullet hose, it's still a single target weapon. And a Kuva Brahma and a Kuva Zar will still out DPS this weapon when it comes to hordes of enemies. But is it a fun weapon to use? Yes, absolutely. And should you try it out? Damn straight. Let's take a look at the Ash build, which you've probably seen this before. It is my Roar Ash. Enemy radar for that consistent enemy radar. Even though you're using a Panzer, it does die, so this is consistency. Spending less time on your butt, huge DPS increase. Vigor Swamp for even more holsters, switching between your primary and secondary to prime enemies with that epitaph or whatever utility weapon that you use, and then going into your primary weapon to mow them down, and you get a 165% base damage increase, which is additive to your gun arcanes. Prime Flow and Equilibrium for that energy income, since we're running a negative efficiency build with that Blind Rage and Umbral Intensify, giving us all that power strength to buff Roar. Why Roar in this case? Because we're dealing with damage over time, like bleeds. So Roar will work exactly like a faction mod, and will be additive with the faction mod, making my bleeds do even more damage. And on top of that, Ash's passive, right, makes bleeds more potent, as you can see right there. So all in all of these things synergize with each other. And finally, Seeking Shuriken for, you know, a little bit more damage when you armor strip them. And I went with even more fire rate with Arcane Acceleration. This doesn't have to proc with your primary weapon. You can crit with your melee and it will still proc. For example, Arcane Acceleration proc. Look at that. I have fire rate now. And my utility weapon is the Epitaph. It is here to proc Viral and Heat, and of course, Epitaph also force procs Blast and Cold, so all those status effects are going to buff Galvanize Aptitude, so my gun will do even more damage. And it also has another Dexterity Arcane with a Reflex Draw, so I'm swapping very fast between my weapons. Anything that delays you or slows you down in an endurance run can get you killed, and will get you killed. And my melee weapon of choice to kill enemies to build up my Dexterity Arcane is the Glaive Prime, and the build is very straightforward. Throw, detonate with your alternate fire, and get things dead. Simple as that. Run your faction mod, so your bleeds will do even more damage. And my focus school, Vazarin. Vazarin is a crutch right now, especially in endurance runs, because with the amount of XMI units that completely blind you, DE, like, what the fuck? Do you not like people to have eyes? It will completely destroy your sense of surrounding. And the XMI units right now are just disgusting when they're gathered up all together in high-level missions. In high-level missions, you will have more and more XMI units spawning. And all those effects and their attacks will completely just not kill you, but more like annoy you. Knockdowns, like fire blasts, energy leech that are across the map that can still see you even if you're invisible. How does that work? Who knows? Because, you know, DE coding, I guess. So yes, please, just fix that. We like to use our eyes. Thank you very much. And those who say, oh, but they don't balance around those kinds of levels, so just leave them alone. No, it's called balance for a reason. And another cool thing with your operator right now is that they have shields, so hey, shield gating. But Toxin will still kill you. Void Dash to proc that Magus lockdown. It is an operator arcane, not part of the focus school. Dash into the ground and proc it. Simple as that. So yeah, guys, this is the Phenmor versus level 9999. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and learned something from it. And if you did, feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.